Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're a little after 2. We are going to start this public safety meeting right now. Do we need to, start with you? Because you got to present another bill, is that correct? All right, thank you. I'm going to put you on the spot, Chairman. Taylor, will you say a prayer for us? Thank you.
Please bow your head. Good afternoon, Father. Thank you for the task that you've given us and the wisdom to help make decisions for the state of Georgia and all of our citizens. We ask you to bless these proceedings and give us the wisdom and discernment to make these great decisions. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor. I appreciate that. Thank you. At this time, we are going to hear from Chairman Collins, and it'll be House Bill 1448. Let's see. Table mic. All right. Floor is yours.
Okay, so yesterday we heard in subcommittee testimony about House Bill 1448. For those of you who may not be familiar with House Bill 1448, we took language that's already codified in code dealing with overrunning a school bus stop sign and dealing with the traffic cameras that catch people speeding in school traffic zones. And what this bill seeks to do is it allows for a civil monetary penalty to be issued for violators who are driving around with an expired tag or registration on the vehicle. Currently, if that happens, a peace officer has to pull that person over, issue them a citation, and as it was brought up yesterday in some testimony, some folks, if you're driving around with a suspended registration, or maybe your insurance is canceled by no fault of your own, or maybe it is, chances are you get put on the side of the road, your car gets towed, okay? So that's in code now, as we all know. What this will allow is for a tag reader to be placed on a peace officer's vehicle, whether that be a local sheriff, a patrol, state patrol, a police department, and those cameras can capture the tag of those violators who don't have a license for a registration, a current tag, and then that officers of that department can review those captured images. There's a hot list from the Georgia Department of Revenue that shows these vehicles have had this registration pulled or not issued a registration, and then a civil monetary penalty will be sent to that violator. It does not keep the peace officer from writing a citation on the spot or pursuing a vehicle. It's just an option that law enforcement can have. A couple of positives that I see is showing some mercy to a lot of folks. Instead of somebody being pulled over, having to go to jail, having their car towed, they're simply issued this ticket, and they have to deal with it through a civil monetary penalty, not a interaction with police. As we've seen over the last couple of years, we've seen some deadly traffic stops, and you can put the blame on public safety, or you can put the blame on the individual, but it is what it is. This is an opportunity that we can use a tool to help enforce a law that's in place. You can't ride around in a vehicle that doesn't have registration. You can't ride around in a vehicle that doesn't have car insurance. And also, other states that have adopted this, we heard testimony that their car insurance rates actually went down because you're kind of nudging people over into that lane to have to obey by the law and purchase car insurance. And this is just another tool, and I feel like this is a good piece of legislation. I have some folks that would like to speak to the bill. If I don't think that's necessary, you heard it yesterday in subcommittee, and Mr. Chairman, that's completely up to you, but I'll stand for any questions from any of those on the committee.
We do have one question. Would
Okay.
you take a
Go ahead.
question?
Go ahead.
Who? Yeah, Representative Neal, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill. I had a number of questions when I was reviewing it yesterday. And if you could make it clear for me, that would be awesome. So
Okay.
the first question I have is, right now when I read it as written, it reads like a person, first of all, it sounds like you're decriminalizing the expired tag code section.
Well, we are for the purpose of the civil monetary penalty.
Okay,
And
so,
that was cleared up in testimony yesterday.
okay,
It does not impede a peace officer's ability to, criminalize this. You can still have the ticket issued, and it is a misdemeanor offense.
right.
You still have that ability, but what this does, I think I'm doing a much better job in subcommittee than I'm doing right now.
That's okay.
But what happens is, if the officer is driving down the road, if he's on a stop, he has this tag reader, and it pops a car, he has the ability to go pursue that vehicle, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if he is stopped on the side of the road, he's yielding aid to someone, he's responding to another call, that image is just captured, and then a peace officer has to review that, make sure and verify. So we're not decriminalizing it in the sense of the peace officer being able to do his or her job out in the field, out in his area or her area, but it decriminalizes it in the sense that you can issue that civil monetary penalty.
Okay, so in that same vein, because I would hate for this to move and it not be, then you get on the street and they have to try to
Yes.
interpret it.
Yes.
Right now, as it reads, it appears as though if my car is caught in the manner of this bill, I
Right.
can get the civil penalty.
Yes,
If I'm just unfortunate enough to not have really even done anything criminal, but if I'm unfortunate enough to have to receive, interact with law enforcement in person,
right.
I can get the same infraction, the same traffic infraction would be criminalized if it was handed to me in person,
Yes.
as opposed to me being lucky enough to get caught on the tag reader.
Yes, or unlucky enough, yes.
Or
that's
unlucky
correct.
enough.
That's
So
correct.
is there a way to clarify in here?
Well,
I say that because I would hate for different people to feel like, hey, if I would have got, if I could have just got picked up on a tag reader, I
Right.
could have avoided having that on my driver's
and the
record.
way that we did this is we mirrored the language that was already codified in code for the tag readers for the traffic cameras in school zones, and also again for the legislation that was necessary for the overtaking of a school bus. Right now, currently, if an officer sees you speeding in a school zone, he can pull you over and cite you for that. And the same thing with a school bus
Right.
overtaking. So that legislation that we have before you is the same legislation that was just mirrored in that code section.
Question, so, if I may, in court, if a person wanted to challenge their expired tag ticket they receive in person,
Yes, you don't have to go to court.
would
I'm
the,
sorry.
no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Does the judge have judicial discretion to allow for a criminalized expired tag? I'm getting nods from the audience, yes. Criminalized expired tag to be converted to a civil penalty
Well-
in lieu of,
Well, the judge has discretion over most of those type of things. So,
Okay.
I mean, again, that's the
Nothing
discretion of
changes.
the judge. That's right.
okay. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chairman Taylor.
Thank you. I thought I understood it. Now, I've got a couple questions. If you are going through a speed zone, whatever, and you're caught in the speed, and it shows you have a tag also, so you'll get two tickets?
I'm sorry now.
If you're going through a speed zone, and say you're going fast, and they're going to hit you for speeding in a school zone or whatever.
No, this
is
legislation doesn't deal with that.
I know, but at the same time, if it picks up that you have a tag that's expired, are you then going to get 2 citations?
I can't speak to that because this legislation doesn't deal with that. That's separate
Okay.
legislation for the school zone.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, we have one more. Representative Clark, Chairman Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for this bill. Reading through it, couple of questions that I have, and some of this goes back to a few years ago when we were dealing with some of these scanners and things. Are these records available? Like, are they open records? Like, if somebody made an open records request of the police department, would these images be subject to open records? Because a few years ago they were.
No, they are not.
Okay. And then how long are they stored, or is there a time period where they're?
There's law enforcement regulations that deal with the storage of license plate data.
Yes.
Okay.
You remember our good friend, if I may, Mr. Chair, our good friend John Pizzold. He
Yep.
had some legislation a couple of years ago that dealt with that.
And I didn't know if it had gotten across and signed by the governor or
Yeah,
not. It's
I'm
hard to
not
keep
familiar.
track of that
I
stuff.
think we supported that in this
Right.
committee several years ago, maybe my freshman
Right.
year.
Right, yes, sir. So then, a follow-up on that, though, is can somebody get dinged more than once? Like, so say I'm on my way home and one scanner finds me and dings it, and then a couple of miles down the road, I go by another cop and they scan it. Can I get dinged more than once?
That's a fairly good question. No, that you cannot.
Well, what's the preventative measure in the bill? Like, what's the language in the bill for that?
Yeah, can we hear from
Yes.
an expert here, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, that's fine. Let him come on up. Will you just introduce yourself and let us know? Come in.
My name is Ted Davis, and we deal with law enforcement, and we provide ALPR readers for the law enforcement. And as far as it going through a jurisdiction and you being picked up by multiple vehicles, they all go through the same clearinghouse as far as the you will not get more than one in a day, although you could be pulled over by a police officer multiple times, because each time that vehicle is picked up on the road, wherever it happens to be, it is a violation of the current law. Under what we're proposing is that even if you got picked up by a police officer for the same offense, you would only get one citation. And since we know all of the ALPR things are cleared through one database, we're only going to issue one in a day. And I think the policy that most folks would agree to is we're not going to issue additional ones. We'll track that your vehicle was picked up 15 times over the period of 2 or 3 months, but we'll only issue one ticket during any 30-day period, because you have an opportunity to receive the civil monetary penalty. You have an opportunity then to pay that civil monetary penalty to get your insurance or to get the registration taken care of. This is not a bill that is seeking to be one to be onerous on the owner of the vehicle. It is seeking to direct that owner to have a more compliant vehicle on the highway. We want the registration to be timely. We want it to have insurance, and we want you to maintain insurance throughout the year.
All right, so thank you for answering that. So, like, if I'm local city police department, county sheriff, another city, they would all, right. If I got dinged in all of those, it would go to the one clearinghouse, and only one citation would be.
Yeah, and it's a little more sophisticated than that. If you drive through, let's say that you're a police officer, you live in DeKalb County, and you are driving through Fulton County with your car, and it's equipped with this system, you don't have jurisdiction there. But if it reads a plate and says it's in Fulton County and it's GPS and here's the location, these are the plates and this is the information, that information will be forwarded to the person that screens those in Fulton County. Okay? It won't go to DeKalb County where his car happens to be. One of the questions that was asked as far as the are we going to use fixed location cameras? Nobody wants to have a surveillance state. What this really does is it takes cameras that exist already that are on police cars, and it purposes those that they can actually read these plates. And rather than the officer having to pull you over, it gives him another alternative, which would be, I don't want to pull that car over. I want to have a civil monetary penalty, and I want that person to correct his issue without us having to actually conduct a physical traffic stop. Anytime you have a physical traffic stop, you have an opportunity for bad outcomes.
Look, I get it, and I understand, and that's why I appreciate this. I'm just wanting to, but a follow-up too is this is a civil penalty.
It is.
What happens if somebody doesn't pay, or they don't? Well, because they have a right to as a defendant in a case, you have the right to see your accuser.
You can go to court with this. There's nothing that prevents you from going to a traffic court with a civil monetary penalty and arguing whatever you might want to argue about it. But if you don't pay, you get another notice. So at 60 days, you get a notice. At 90 days, you get a notice. And then finally, you get a notice from the Department of Revenue that you have this outstanding civil monetary penalty. So there's about a 120-day period that goes by that you have to pay it at some point there, or your registration would be suspended. That's the way the current law is written.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one follow-up to the representative's question. So you made a reference to if it's out of jurisdiction, it captures information and sends it to the actual jurisdiction of that the car actually comes from. Where does it go? So if, like for instance, when I was policing, you can't, if you the officer didn't witness certain things, or you weren't behind the car,
Right.
if your friend that's not even working writes the ticket, it doesn't work like that. So when it comes to like this, when you reference that information is transferred to the actual.
So the information, the way this bill is written, and the way that the one for school buses and speed zones,
Okay.
there's not a police officer in the speed zone at a school, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
The camera captures the information, and then since it's in a known jurisdiction, an officer, a peace officer that is authorized to review that evidence has to review the evidence, and the evidence has to be compelling.
Okay.
In other words, it's not a blurry license plate that could be misunderstood to be some other number. It has to be clear evidence that this vehicle was in the wrong place, it shouldn't have been on the highway, then that vehicle could be cited for a civil monetary penalty. So it's no different than the school cross-arm where there's no police officer there whatsoever either. So the goal here is we don't want to have every single police car have ALPR systems. It would be unaffordable to do that. So what you want to do is you want to know that it is only going to be on marked vehicles. We're not looking to put this on unmarked vehicles. We don't want to have anybody say there's targeting or there's undue surveillance. It's going to be on a subset of the police cars in any given jurisdiction. So it's not going to be overly deployed. The goal is to nudge people into compliance. And if you have compliance, what you'll see is not only do you benefit by having folks have insurance on their vehicles and they're properly registered, but everybody's a winner because your insurance rates go down statewide. I referenced one in Texas where they implemented this, and over a 5-year period of time, they went, their insurance rates are the only ones that went down in the country next to Oklahoma, and they're saving about $7 billion a year annually with reduced insurance rates. So if we do this, the amount that would be ever captured through citation is dwarfed by the benefit to the taxpayers. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Let's see, we have one more question from Representative Evans.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so when you say they save $7 billion annually with reduced insurance rates, that's like the ratepayers are saving that money?
That's right.
Yeah, okay, not the state, good. And I just wanted the committee to know, I spoke with our friend Maisie Lynn Causey from the Criminal Defense Council, and they are neutral on this bill because no one is getting criminally charged, and she has concerns about everything being mailed. And I will say, having 320-something children who don't always read their mail as well as they could, I mean, that's a concern, but that's a concern with a lot of issues. So people need to pay attention to what's mailed to them. But I wanted to communicate that to the committee.
Thank you. Any other discussion, any questions? Let's see, Chairman Taylor.
At the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
All right,
I move we do pass.
got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? It carries. Thank you, Chairman Collins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we got one more to take up. If Representative Maynard will come up, wherever you feel comfortable. Okay, that sounds good. All right, let's see, what are we here? We're HB 1004. We're reading from LC 393383S. Okay? All righty, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just, I didn't hear you. LC 34, oh Lord, I didn't bring my glasses. Oh. LC 345819S.
Let's see, no, we're 393383S.
No, this is, sorry.
Yeah.
You can't imagine what kind of day I had.
We sympathize with you. We've all been down those roads.
Okay, LC 393383S.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Everybody got that? Okay, here we go.
Thank you. So we have had 2 subcommittee hearings on this bill, and we had people from the AUCC come to testify both times. They could not make it today. They are sorry about that. But in a nutshell, the AUCC is comprised of several college campuses: Morehouse, Morris Brown, Clark, Spelman, as well as the Medical College, ITC. All of these campuses are right connected to each other, and so they're called a consortium. And the AUCC is the only consortium in the state of Georgia. And what they cannot do right now until this bill is passed, they are not able to coordinate helping students and keeping the campus safe. For example, if someone is on Morehouse's campus and they witness a crime on Spelman's campus, they actually can't do anything about it. They have to call 911, and the APD has to come out. There was an instance that they talked about in the first hearing. There was a shooting at Clark's campus, and the other university was right there, but they couldn't do anything about it. Even more current to right now is, the HBCUs have been having these bomb threats, and so it would have been much easier to coordinate together. So what this bill does, it allows them to enter into an agreement. The bill does not make the agreement. It just allows them to enter into an agreement to unify their police forces. This is also the Sheriff's Association. We made some corrections, not corrections, but we did what they asked us to do. And what their problem was jurisdiction. Originally, the bill said 500 yards or something to that effect, and so now the bill says this is in the confines of the university borders. This bill also was signed by, or there's a letter of support you should have in your folders. Every single college president has signed this bill saying they are in support of it. You should also have in your folders from the Atlanta Police Foundation. They have signed a letter of support for it. And also Legislative Counsel, Holly Carter, she sent a letter as well that just clarifies this in no way changes anything with any other university in the state of Georgia. This simply allows this university or this consortium to enter into an agreement. And I'll yield to any questions.
You do have one, Chairman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the lady for bringing this good, common sense bill. This is something that has needed to be there for a while, and I appreciate you bringing it, and at the appropriate time.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Do we have any other discussion? Any question?
I move to pass.
All right, do I have a second? All right, do we have any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Well, you have your bill. Thank you very much.
That's the
Thank you.
easiest bill I've ever.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
Thank you.
We have no further business. We are adjourned.
I know. You can't take me anywhere.
We
Hard to find good health. It really is.